Well, I love this time of the year. All right, so we are going to be talking today in our lesson, and I hope you got some things to take notes because I think in this sense it's a whole lot better uh, if I just teach it and you write it down as I'm teaching it rather than handing out some handouts. Um, so what we're going to do is we're going to look at prefixes and suffixes in the Hebrew. So first thing we're going to do is talk about prefixes, and then we'll talk about suffixes. All right. So the first part of this is going to be prefixes. Everybody knows what a prefix is. We don't have to go back to that, right?
Right.
Okay. So there are how many letters are there in the alphabet?
22.
How many letters do you guess that would be used as prefixes in the Hebrew language?
20.
Oh, that's a little high. A little high. Anybody else got a guess?
Oh, how about the number 7?
Well, that's kind of cool too. Anybody else got a guess?
Oh, we lost Ken and Anna. Oh, there they are.
Okay, there are exactly one half of the letters are prefixes.
11.
11 of them.
What do I unplug? Because they're on.
So you can imagine now how that this is going to get really difficult when you start to reading, when you got all those prefixes that can be added. Just one single letter becomes a prefix and can change the word considerably. All right, so here are the 11 letters. Now they're actually in the Hebrew they're actually called otiot hashimush. Otiot hashimush. Otiot is letters, and hashimush literally means formative. So these are the formative letters. The formative letters. So I'm going to give them to you. I'll give them to you slow so you can write them down. You probably want to write them down in Hebrew so you'll be able to to recognize them later. But the Aleph is the first one. So if you want to make a Hebrew Aleph on your paper. The second one is the Beit. The third one is the Hey. If I'm going too fast, just let me know. The fourth one is the Vav. The fifth one is the Yud. The sixth one is the Kaf. By the way, I muted you all, so if I'm going too fast, you'll have to unmute yourself to let me know that I'm going too fast, all right? So I left off with the Kaf, right? So the next one is the Lamed. The next one is the Mem. Next one is, excuse me, is the Nun. I noticed Ken and Hannah went to get some paper. Are you able to get them all down? Wave at me if you're able to get them all down. You're with us, okay. Okay, after the Nun, we got is the Sheen. And the last one is the tav. All right, so Aleph, Bet, Hey, Vav, Yud, Kaf, Lamed, Mem, Nun, Shin, and Tav. There should be 11 of them. Okay, so we're going to go through the first one. First ones are called, these are conjunctions, all right? So we're going to, the first ones are prefixes that are used as conjunctions. Some of these we've already introduced you to. So we have 4 of those that are used as conjunctions. You have the vav, and the vav means and. So the vav at the beginning of a word is for and. There's one time when the vav is used for something else, and I'll come to that at the very end of this lesson. But right now, it's used as and. There's another use for the vav, and I'll cover that at the end. All right. Then the next one is the lamed. The lamed. Most of the time, these are going to have a shiva underneath them. All right. The majority of times, they're going to have a shiva underneath them. A shiva. I was corrected on my pronunciation listening to a Hebrew scholar this, a few days ago over at Skip's house, and I was pronouncing that shiva right. It was shiva. Shiva. So anyway, so now I'm trying to get that pronunciation correct. So we all have to learn, right? All right, so lamed, the meaning for lamed is 2 or 4. 2 or 4. To a king or for a king. Limelech. Limelech or could be to a king or could be for a king, depending on context. Okay, then the next one is the bait. The bait or the bait, either one. Either one, they're either one. You can see either one that way. Can be a bait or could be a bait. And that will be that. If that's its beginning of a word, it means in, with, or by. In, with, or by. Such as in the first word in the Tanakh, the word Bereshit. Bereshit can be in, with, or by. So it could be in beginning, or with beginning, or by beginning, depending on the context and how the interpreters want to interpret it. And the last one is the kaf. The kaf. And the kaf is as or like. As or like. As or like. Okay, then we got a couple of prepositions that appear as prefixes. First one I want to talk about is the mem. The mem. And the meaning of the mem is from. So you would translate that as from. So if you see Mimelech, Memelech, you have a double M, double mem there, then it would be from a king. If you have Mehamelech, it's from the king. All right. So that's the mem prefix is from. The next prefix, the second one, is hey. And we know that hey is the definite article, right? Okay. Now, the letter hey can also be used as an interrogative. So that there are times when the hey is used where it is signaling you that there's a question. This is a question. So this is a confusing, right? It's used to indicate a question. Usually you can distinguish this because the hey will have a katav. I'm sorry, not a katav. Yeah, a katef patak. A katef patak. You remember? You know what a katef patak is? I don't know if I've got my. Let me see. Let me see if I've got my vowel chart here. If somebody knows what a katef patak is, you're welcome to tell me. I'll show you a picture of it here in a minute. These are out of order, so I gotta go through all of them to find it, looks like.
Well, a patek is that line.
Okay, it's a straight line with a shiva on the right. But I don't see my card, so I probably got it stuck together or something. But it's a straight line underneath it, that's the patak. And then you got the shiva to the right of it, which would be a katef patak. It may not be in those vowels that I showed you. That may be the one on my left off. Anyway, if you see that underneath a hey at the beginning of a word, then it's letting you know that it's a question coming up. Which is important because a lot of times they don't have the verb, like the verb to be, many times is just assumed. So you would, if you see that in there and it's, for instance, it says, Habain Bikri, Bikir, I'm sorry, Habain Bikrir Lee is if you didn't have that to tell you as a question, it could just be saying he is my most precious son. But because there's a patak katef patak there, then what it's telling you is this question. So then you put the verb in front of it and say, "Is he my precious son?" So so that's a little bit of a thing there. Okay, so now those are primarily vowels that are used in front of nouns. Now I want to look at some nouns that are verbs, used as a verb, okay? Are connected to a verb. And these, the aleph, if it's a prefix to a verb, it will indicate the first person singular future tense, I will. First person singular future tense, I will. So if you see an aleph that is a prefix to a word, then it's I will. Okay. When a yud is prefixed to a verb stem, it indicates third person future tense. It'd be either he will or they will. So if so Aleph is I will. So let's take the priestly blessing. The first word, the priestly blessing, is Yivarechecha, which is a Y. I'm sorry, Y, which is a Yud that begins with a Yud. Yivarechecha, which means I will bless you. When Yeshua was taken up into the world, up into heaven, and the disciples saw him go, he lifted up his hands and he spread apart his fingers like that. And as he was ascending into heaven, he spoke that priestly blessing over him. It says, and he raised up his hands and blessed them. Only he would have used the Aleph instead of the Yud, and they would have heard that difference very succinctly. And so he would have, instead of Yivarechecha, he would have said Evarechecha, Evarechecha. And when they heard his Evarechecha instead of Yivarechecha, and then it was I will bless you. So he was literally saying, I am Yahweh. And so it was his final declaration that he was Yehovah, that he was the God that was over all, that the God, and it says that they left that place with great joy. The reason was because they knew beyond the shadow of a doubt, because he left him with that testimony, not only that he himself is blessing them. See, before, the blessing always came through the priest, so the blessing would be passed on through the priest, and when the priest would bless them, as the priest was saying that, then God says, as you pronounce his blessing, I will bless them. But now he's taken out the middleman, and now he himself is blessing you. He himself gives the priestly blessing over you. So he is sitting as right now at the right hand of the Father, and making intercession for you. But I believe also blessing you with, I will bless you and I will keep you. I will make my face to shine upon you and I will be gracious to you. I will lift my countenance upon you and I will give you peace. I believe that he's doing that right now to every single one of us.
Okay, so the Yud is third person future tense,
Yes,
and that's he will
that he will or they will.
or they will. Okay,
Yep.
so it doesn't have to be singular.
Doesn't have to be singular. It depends, because it depends on who, whether it's, and it could be she will too, because number and gender we'll get in there too. Okay, but the number and the gender depend upon the suffix. All right, but we'll get to suffixes in a little bit. Okay, so now if it's prefixed with the noon. If it's prefixed with a noon, if a verb is so you got a verb stem or a verb root, and it's prefixed with the letter noon, then that is we will. We will. Okay, then we have the tav. So if we prefix a verb with the tav, it indicates one of the following. It'll indicate either third person singular feminine future tense, which would be she will. Third person singular feminine future tense, she will. Or it could also mean second person future tense, and the number and gender will depend upon the suffix. You will. You will. And then in biblical Hebrew, it could be the third person plural feminine, future tense, they will. Plural feminine, they will. Okay, now we're going to look at a couple more. The next one is the sheen. The sheen as a prefix would be that, which, who, or whom. Do it again. That, which, who, or whom. That, which, who, or whom. The sheen. Okay, so that's the 11 one. Now I told you at the beginning we were going to talk about a different use for the verb than just the conjunction and. Mostly in biblical Hebrew, you don't see this in modern Hebrew hardly at all. This is this verb is used as a it's called a it's a verb that changes the past to future tense or the future back to past tense. So I don't want to get into it right now about how that works because that gets really involved. But they do use the verb to literally switch the tense of the word. So you would normally be maybe a past tense word, but they've added the verb as a prefix, and that would change that to a past tense to a future tense, and the future tense back to past tense. But that really only comes in if you're getting into translation and you want to maybe get into a heavy translation. Most of the time, if you're reading there, you can tell. You could tell by context whether the word should be past or future tense by context. For our purposes, I don't think it's that essential. All right, so that's the prefixes. So let's go over the prefixes one more time so we know which ones are prefixes. So I'm going to just do each letter of the alphabet, and I'm going to tell you whether it's a prefix or not a prefix. So we're going to go through the alphabet in order. Aleph can be used as a prefix. Beit can be used as a prefix. Gimel, no. Dalet, no. Hey, yes. Vav, yes. Zayin, no. Chet, no. Tet, no. Yud, yes. Chaf, yes. Lamed, yes. Mem, yes. Nun, yes. Samak, no. Ain, no. Pei, no. Sadi, no. Kuf, no. Resh, no. Sheen, yes. Tav, yes. Okay, the aleph is I. Or I will, okay. The bait is in, with, or by. The hay is the article the. Bob and. If one way you could tell if it changes to past or present, whether it's a changing Bob or not, is if it has a dagesh in the Bob. So if you there's, but you know, that you might think it was the sharuk. So it gets, you know, I don't even want to tell you that. You know, it gets too many too confusing. I shouldn't have even said anything about that. I should have just left it alone. But all right, the yud is he or they will. The kaf, as or like. The lamed, to or for. The mem, from. The noon is we will. The shin, who, which, or that. The tav, she or they. And okay, that's it. That's it. Okay, so now what we're going to do is we're going to talk about suffixes. Suffixes. First of all, before I go on, there's any questions?
Yeah, for the sheen. Can that
Yeah.
also be for seen too, or just only the sheen?
Just the sheen. Any other questions? Anything else? Kind of went over 2 or 3 times so to make sure that we, you know, so we kind of covered it.
Hey, David,
Yes.
when you were going through the list, I got the first 9 on the suffixes, the last 2.
Sheen and
I-
Tom. Oh, I don't have suffixes yet. Prefixes.
Well, you did. When you said no, they were basically suffixes. Because there was the other 11 letters.
No, the other 11 are not suffixes. The other 11 are probably neither, actually.
Okay, I misunderstood at the start then.
Yeah, no, I was just talking about prefixes, you know, up till now. So,
Okay,
all right. Okay. So now what we're going to talk about is pronominal suffixes. Pronominal suffixes. In other words, pronouns, letters that are used as suffixes that are pronouns. So the letters that we see are going to be pronouns. So they're called pronominal suffixes. So your pronominal suffixes are either going to be possessive or objective. So they're either going to be objective pronouns, or they're going to be either going to be the object of the preposition, or they're going to be a possessive pronoun. And you'll find these suffixes on nouns, prepositions, and on the aleph tav, the direct object marker, the aleph tav. When they appear on a noun, they are possessive. When they appear on prepositions or the aleph tav, the direct object marker, they are objective. They are the object of the preposition. Makes sense, don't it? If you're going to put a pronoun with a preposition, it's going to be the object of the preposition, such as you know, to him or in him or whatever. All right. Okay, now there's 2 sets of pronominal suffixes. One of them occurs with the singular nouns, and the other type occur with plural nouns. So type 1. So we're gonna, if you want to make on your paper 2 columns, type 1, put a type 1 on one side, type 2 on the other at the top of the column, and then at the side you can put this on there, and then we'll put under type 1 and under type 2 what each one is. So these are your first person singular. That's a common one. We're going to use the letter Yud that is preceded by a Karik. We saw that in our vowels where we had the Karik Yud. So when that's used as a suffix, that is the pronoun my, or could be me. If it's connected to a noun, it's my. If it's connected to a preposition, it's me. It's a direct object of the preposition. Direct object. So the singular one would be the karik with the yud. The plural one would be a patak with the yud. So the yud that preceded by a patak underneath the consonant that's before it. So whatever the consonant is before the yud, it's going to have this patak underneath it. That means that it's a plural. So that would be a plural like ours. Okay. Okay, the second suffix that we're going to look at is the kaf. Actually, the kaf sofit, right? Kaf sofit. So if the kaf sofit is it'll have a oh, what's my? I hate it when my mind won't work. Okay, when the kaf sofit has a kamatz, then it's going to be a singular masculine, second person singular masculine. So the yud was the first person. This is going to be second person. If it's plural, if it's connected to a plural noun, then it will have a yud with the three dots. Man, my mind is going crazy tonight. Can't even think of these names of these vowels here. The segol. So if there's a yud with a segol underneath it, followed by a patak, followed by a kaf sofit with a kamatz, then that's going to be that's what's attached to a plural noun. And if it's attached to a noun, it's possessive, which means your. If it's attached to a preposition or the direct object marker, then it's you. Okay. So that's the masculine form. The feminine form, if it ends with a kaf sofit and it has a shiva along the side of it, the 2 dots there on the side, and that's a second person feminine, and that would be your. If it has a yud with a karik underneath it, and then also the kaf sofit with the shiva, then that would be you, feminine. Okay, if you've come up with the suffix, which is the suffix vav, and the vav has a column over it, then that is that's attached to a singular noun, third person masculine, which would be his or its. If it's a plural noun, it would be a vav preceded by a yud with a kamatz underneath the yud. No column, just a yud kamatz and then a vav ending. And that would be his or its. If it's subjective, it would be him or it. So that's third person masculine. Third person feminine ends with a hey. That's preceded by any vowel that has a kamatz underneath it. Kamatz hey. If it's on a plural word, it would be a yud hey with a kamatz underneath the hey. That'd be her or its. Now there are endings that make a word plural. For instance, the ending noon vav with a sharuk. Noon vav with the sharuk, which is pronounced nu, like anaknu. And that would be hour. Hour. If the root of the word is already plural, then it would be yud, noon, vav with a sharuk. Yenu. Yenu. Objective is us. So it's possessive is our, objective is us. Am I going too fast? Okay, the next one is second person masculine. Second person masculine. First type is chem. That is cough. That is the cough without the dagesh. So it's got the chem. The cough with the my goodness, what? Segol with the segol underneath it, the three dots, the segol. Chem, second person masculine, means your. Like Elohim would be your God. All right, then you have the yud with the kaf with the segol and the mem sofit for your. The adjective would be your. So that's the masculine. So the feminine now of your would be the kaf. Somebody's wanting me in here. Hang on. Carol is joining us. Okay, so we're in second person feminine. We got the cough with the segol and the nun suffix. And the second person feminine is going to be the yud, the cough with the segol and the nun suffix. So the difference between the masculine and feminine on that one would be the mem suffix or nun suffix that ends it. Everything else is the same. And that would be you or your or the you, depending on what is possessive or objective. Okay, then you have the third person feminine. I'm sorry, let's go to the masculine first. First person masculine, which is the hey and the mem suffix. Hey with the segol and the mem suffix. Hem, hem, which is also the same word for they by without if it's standing by itself. Him, they, and han would be they plural. And the same thing happens here. You got the han, but this time it's there. There, it's possessive, so it makes it possessive. It takes the they and makes it possessive. So instead of they, now it's there. Their home, their home. If it's objective, then it'd be them on both of those. So the type 1 would be the hey with the segol with the mem suffix. The type 2 would be the yud with the hey with segol with the mem suffix. Then the feminine is the hey with the segol with the nun suffix. And the type 1, then type 2 would be the yud with the hey segol and nun suffix. There and there, them. Okay, there's 4 rules to this, and you can probably write these down. The first one is all pronominal suffixes have person, gender, and number. Person, gender, and number. All pronominal suffixes have person, gender, and number. Shalom, Carol. How are you? Are you able to hear us? Okay, number 2, all type 2 suffixes have a yud. All type 2 suffixes have a yud. And so that helps you distinguish between a type 1 and a type 2. And when I was doing the third person feminine singular, I forgot to tell you that there was a dagesh in the middle of that hey. But if you go back to that, where third person feminine on type 1, where it has a kamatz and the hey, the hey has a dagesh in it, but in the type 2 it does not have a dagesh in it. But that dagesh is called a mapik. And it's just to help you identify that that's third person feminine singular pronoun. And the fourth one, so there are alternate forms for the type 1 suffixes and should be memorized. So there are alternate forms as well.
David, run the list of the 4 rules again, because I've only got I'm on the third one and I really missed the first 2.
Sure. All pronominal suffixes have person, gender, and number. Number 2, all type 2 suffixes have a yud. And that kind of helps you distinguish it from the type 1. that the only two you needed?
Yes,
Okay.
haven't got to the third one or the fourth one yet, so.
Oh, you need a third one too?
Third and fourth.
You,
Okay.
third and fourth, you haven't given it to us yet.
Okay, well, the third one is the dot, the dagesh and the letter hey on the third person feminine singular. That helps you determine that that's the third person feminine singular. That's why it's there. And the fourth rule is that there are some alternate forms for the type 1 that should be memorized. And here are the 5 alternate forms that you're going to encounter. These are all type 1s, all right? In the first person that we talked about, the type 1 with the yud with the karik underneath it, there's an alternate form that has a noon with a karik with a yud. It means the same. Noon with a karik with a yud. So it's an alternate form that can use, means the same thing. In the third person masculine singular, where we have the vav with a colon over it, the alternative form would be a hey with a vav with the sharuk. Eliyahu would be a form of that, masculine singular, Eliyahu. So that's an alternative to the vav with the colon. Then in the third person feminine singular, where you have the hey with the dagesh, with the whatever, some letter before it that has the kamatz. The alternate form would be a hey with the kamatz underneath it, without the dagesh. So you might see it either way. Okay, the fourth one of the 5, third person masculine plural, where you have the hey with the segol with the mem sofit. An alternate form would be any letter with a kamatz and a mem sofit. And the last one, third person female plural or feminine plural. The hey with the segol with the nun sofit. An alternative form would be any letter with a kamatz and a nun sofit. Okay. Okay, when a pronominal suffix is added to a masculine plural noun, the normal plural ending, which is the yud with the mem sofit, that yud mem sofit is dropped, and they drop off the yud mem sofit, and they put a pronominal suffix on it. If it's a feminine noun that ends in hey, as in Torah, Torah is a feminine noun that ends in hey. When it receives a pronominal suffix, the hey is replaced by a tav, and it becomes torot. or Torah, depending on the vowel markings, Torot or Torah. And then you would put the pronominal suffix. If it's a feminine plural noun, it keeps the yud tav, the ot, the yud tav, the yud with the colon and the tav on a feminine plural. When they do a pronominal suffix to that, it keeps the ot in there. Okay, there are some prepositions that have pronominal suffixes. For instance, you might see the lamed with the kaf sofit. Leka. You might be familiar with that if you are a student of Abraham and how that he left the Ur of the Chaldees and traveled to this land that God would show him, and that he went. It says that he leka. And you see the leka there at the as part of that, and that is basically just two Hebrew letters. The lamed, which is a preposition, means two or four, and then the ha, which means to you or to yourself. So when God said for him to leka, he basically was saying, go to yourself. Isn't that interesting? God, how would you like God to come to you and say, hey, Dennis, go to yourself. And you understand him, and you get right up, and you pack your bags, and you leave family and friends and everybody, and you take your wife and you head out. Go to yourself. I think that's interesting. It's just an interesting concept. It's only used 2 times in the Bible, that leka. The first time is with Abraham leaving the Ur of the Chaldees. The second time is when God told him to go and sacrifice his son. He said, leka. Go to yourself. So there had to be some kind of introspective work that had to go on inside of them. Because, in other words, God was saying to Abraham, you're not who you really are until you get to where I want you to be. So Abraham could not be who he really was meant to be until he left the Ur of the Chaldees and went to where God said it. Then it's the same thing happened with the sacrifice of Isaac, with the Akedah, is that the Akedah helped Abraham find himself. The sacrifice of Isaac helped him find himself. The willingness to leave his family helped him find himself, find out who he was. The willingness to offer his only son helped to find even something more about himself that he didn't know. Interesting little study in Hebrew there. I'm not going to get into the rest of these. It gets a little bit. I think that's enough for one night. We can do some of these other ones later on. All right. I know that's a lot of stuff, but we're to a point where we're starting to read and maybe even understand a little bit what we're reading. Here's what I'm encouraging you. Last week, I introduced you to some videos that were Hebrew with the English caption underneath it, and there are tons of those on there. What I did and found that one, I just typed in Jewish Christian music. Jewish Christian music or Christian Jewish music, either one. And I got all these things, and then I started seeing, well, they've got the Hebrew, and they've got it transliterated underneath it. So I was able then to just follow the transliteration and pronounce the words and be able to follow along and be able to sing with them. And I've listened to them over and over and over and over again. Gadol Adonai. Yeah, and I can just, I can hear it in my head over and over again. And what that does is it helps you learn to pronounce the words. And also, it's a fun way of doing it. Music is a wonderful tool of learning a language. So I would encourage you to get to watch as many of those musical videos that you can, the ones that have, especially the ones that have the English underneath it, because then you know what they're actually singing about. But if it has the transliteration of the letters underneath, each letter is transliterated, then it will help you with pronunciation of some of the words, and you'll start recognizing some of the other words as you're when you're reading the Hebrew Bible and things, because you've seen them in a song somewhere, because they most of them are taken right out of the Bible. They take songs right out of the Bible and put the words to it. So, and they're really, they got some really good videos out there. So it's difficult for us to immerse ourselves into a culture because we don't have Jewish people that are around us. If we had a Jewish friend that we could go and just practice our Hebrew on, that would be wonderful. Or if we could just immerse ourselves into a Jewish community for a few months, it wouldn't be long before you'd be speaking and reading and understanding Hebrew. But it makes it difficult because we spend 99.9% of our time talking English. And so the little bit of Hebrew that we're exposed to is just not enough to really bridge the gap to where we can just so it becomes a language to us. So we have to be innovative and look for ways of immersing ourselves in that. One good way is to get a Hebrew English Bible. Get one, and when you go to your services on weekly services, that you follow along and look it over there in the Hebrew and see how many words you can recognize while they're reading it in English, and you've got the English right there side by side, so you can keep up with them. But just see how many Hebrew words you can recognize that they're saying in English, but you see the Hebrew over there, and then you start picking up some of these words. And then the songs are interesting because in the songs there are a lot of different phrases that you can start incorporating into your conversations. When you talk to people, and you can maybe say, blessed is he who comes, Baruch haba. Okay, blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord, Baruch haba Hashem Adonai. Blessed is he who comes in the name of the Lord. So you start incorporating these things, and then especially if you can find someone that you can practice that on, or say that out loud with, or just have fun with. Just say, hey, I learned this Hebrew phrase, and tell them what the Hebrew phrase is, and then tell them what it means in English. And so all that little stuff like that helps you do that. The other thing I think we're at a point now where a lot of you can do a lot of self-study that would probably. So I want to give you a couple of things that will really help you, and I'm going to show you a couple of books that I have and a couple of tools that I have. Now, I believe you can get all this on Amazon. I know this. These are Hebrew vocabulary cards. So Hebrew vocabulary cards right there. And you can look this up but there are a lot of different cards in a little box like this. And you could just take out a handful of them. And they're numbered, you know, if you want to keep them numbered, they're numbered according to this book right here. Which is that book right there, Basics of Biblical Hebrew by Gary DePratico and Miles V. Van Pelt. That also has a workbook that I would suggest that you probably get, and maybe you start working on that, and you would start learning grammar and all kinds of rules and stuff that I didn't cover because I just wanted to get you to a place where you could read Hebrew. Once you read Hebrew, then these books become very, very, very helpful. Otherwise, they really are hard. They're really hard to get through otherwise. But I think you're at a point where you can start doing it. But these cards, like that one right there, I'll get a little closer to the camera. There's Adam, Eretz, Elohim, Av, Bain. You probably recognize some of these, right? So what did I just say? I had man, earth, God, Father, and then the next one was El, which is God. Then you have Bain, which is Son. So you can those really help you get a good get your vocabulary built up, and you start recognizing some things. All right, so we got those which are all connected. Okay, you get that on Amazon. Then this book right here. This is the book I learned Hebrew out of. Now this is not biblical Hebrew. This is going to be conversational type thing, but this is awesome. It's Ha-Yesod, and Ha-Yesod means the foundation. That's what it means. Yesod means foundation. The foundation, and it's got you translate it from the Hebrew to the English, and then you turn around and they got words that you translate. And sentences you translate from the English back to the Hebrew, and it gives you all the different rules and things as you go along, and it will cover a lot of stuff that we covered, but it'll also take you even further into it. So if you really want to get into the language, then this book right here will really help you, probably more than even the other book. If I was going to get one of the books first, I would get this book with those flashcards. And then if I could afford the other book, I would buy the other book later. But this book right here is an excellent one, and you can even see on the top is Ha-Yesod. And the interesting thing is that it's from right to left. So it literally the book reads from right to left like a Hebrew book should.